I never thought the woman who made me believe in love again would be the one to tear my life apart. My name is Ethan, I'm 44, and I live just outside of Cleveland, Ohio. I build homes for a living, solid, grounded, permanent things, I thought. I'd built the same kind of life for myself, especially after what I'd been through. My first marriage ended badly. My ex-wife, Jenna, and I had grown cold over the years. We had a son together, Tyler, but even he couldn't hold us together. After the divorce, I spent 4 years alone raising walls not just in my homes, but around my heart, too. Then I met Claire. She was 36, a nurse at the local hospital. Blonde hair, soft brown eyes, confident and warm. There was something about her voice. It was gentle, but it carried strength. She laughed easily, touched my hand when she spoke, and looked at me like I mattered. Not just for who I was on paper, but for the man underneath all my scars. I dated casually before her, but with Claire, it was different. She didn't rush anything, and neither did I. We moved slowly, like two people who had been hurt before but were brave enough to try again. I fell for her in the quiet moments, the way she made coffee just how I liked it without asking. How she remembered stories I told her weeks ago, and the way she kissed me after a long day. Like she was trying to erase the weight I carried after. A year we moved in together. Life felt good, easy even. Claire wasn't just my girlfriend, she was my partner. She helped me rebuild a relationship with Tyler, who had just come back from college in Michigan. He was 22, quiet like me, with a bit of a chip on his shoulder. Our relationship had always been rocky, especially after the divorce. I wasn't always there for him when he needed me, and I guess some part of him never let that go. Claire was the one who pushed us to get closer again. "He's your son, Ethan," she'd say. "You still have time to make it right." I tried. We had dinners together, movie nights. Claire made it feel like we were a real family. She was always kind to him, checking in, asking about his job, his friends. Sometimes I even caught him smiling at her in a way I hadn't seen in years. Like he was finally letting someone in. But then little things started to change. Subtle shifts, nothing big enough to call out. The way Claire laughed at Tyler's jokes just a little longer than mine. It's the way he'd walk into a room and she'd pause like she forgot I was there. First, I told myself I was imagining it. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I was being insecure. After all, Claire loved me, she told me every day. We still made love, still had late-night talks in bed about our future. We'd even started talking about getting married. So I let it go. But the feeling stayed. That strange, uncomfortable ache in my gut I couldn't explain. Then one morning, everything changed. Claire was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. I wasn't snooping, at least. That's what I told myself, but when I saw Tyler's name on the screen, something in me froze. I wasn't prepared for what I saw. It's just one message, but enough to shatter everything I believed in. Last night was everything. "I can still taste you." My heart dropped. My chest tightened like it had been crushed by a truck. I read it again, thinking maybe I misunderstood, that it was a joke or a mistake. But I knew better. I knew that kind of message. I knew what it meant, and I knew who it was from. My son, my own flesh and blood. The boy I was trying to reconnect with, and Claire, the woman I thought I would spend the rest of my life with. I stood there, shaking, not knowing whether to scream or throw something or just collapse on the floor. Everything I had worked so hard to rebuild, my trust, my family, my heart, was gone in a second. Betrayal doesn't always come loud. Sometimes it slips in like a whisper and sits beside you like a friend. That morning, standing there in my own bedroom, realized the woman I loved had betrayed me in the most intimate, unimaginable way. And it was only the beginning. Asterisk after reading that message. Something inside me broke, but I didn't react the way you might think. I didn't storm into the bathroom and confront Claire right then. I didn't call Tyler and curse him out. Just froze. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the phone until the screen went dark. It felt like my chest had been hollowed out. My body was moving, but my soul stayed behind. For the rest of that day, and the next I played along like nothing had happened. I kissed Claire goodbye when she left for work. I nodded at Tyler when he came downstairs. I sat at the dinner table with both of them, chewing food that tasted like sawdust. I didn't sleep much, and when I did, I dreamed of things I never wanted to see. Her skin against his. Her lips saying the same words she once whispered to me. And him, my son, reaching for something that never should have been his. But I needed to be sure. I needed more than just a message, because part of me, God help me, still hoped it wasn't real. That maybe it was a one-time mistake, something stupid they regretted. That maybe they hadn't gone all the way. So I watched. I paid attention. I became the quiet observer in my own home. Claire started acting different. Not by much, but enough. She was suddenly busier after workout with friends she never talked about before. She'd come home late, smelling like wine and something unfamiliar. And Tyler, he was less careful. He stopped looking me in the eye, started staying out all night or coming in just before sunrise. Sometimes I'd hear them talking too softly in the kitchen, voices low, like they were hiding a secret. It was like a movie I couldn't stop watching. I didn't want to believe what was happening under my roof, but every sign pointed to one thing. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a full-blown affair. And the worst part? They were still pretending in front of me, smiling, laughing, sitting beside me like I was blind. I had to know the truth. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I installed a hidden camera in the guest room. It felt disgusting, sneaky, paranoid, but I couldn't live in limbo anymore. I didn't have to wait long. Just 2 nights later, while I was supposed to be working late, they met in that room. I watched it all from my phone in my truck, parked down the street like a stranger to my own life. Claire's body in his arms, their kisses, their whispered words, their moans. I felt like I was dying. I felt like a fool. I had given everything to this woman, my heart, my home, my trust. And she gave herself to my son, the same boy I was trying to reconnect with, the same boy she encouraged me to forgive. I sat there in the dark, clutching my phone like a weapon, and for the first time in years, I cried. Not just because she cheated, but because it was all a lie. Our dinners, our plans, our late-night talks about the future. She was playing a role, and I had fallen for it completely. The next morning, I finally confronted her. She was making coffee, humming to herself like nothing was wrong. I stood in the doorway and said, "How long has it been going on?" She turned slowly, her face going pale. But then, to my shock, she didn't deny it. She didn't even try. She looked at me straight and said, "You deserved it." I blinked. My heart stopped. "What the hell does that mean?" I asked, barely able to speak. Her tone turned cold. "You were never really present, Ethan. You didn't see Tyler. You didn't see me. I was just your way of proving you'd moved on, but you never let me in. You never let anyone in." Her words hit me harder than the betrayal itself. Because deep down, I wondered if she was right. Had I been too guarded, too focused on rebuilding, but still sleeping with my son? That wasn't justice. That was cruelty. That day, I realized this wasn't just about lust. This was something darker. Claire hadn't just betrayed me, she had planned it. She wanted me to hurt. She wanted to destroy everything I loved, and she knew exactly how to do it. Not by leaving, not by yelling, but by slipping into the cracks of my life and breaking me from the inside out. After Claire said those words, "You deserved it," something inside me shifted. It was like my heart, already cracked from betrayal, finally gave way and shattered completely. I stood there in the kitchen, barely breathing, watching this woman I had once pictured growing old would speak like a stranger. She wasn't crying. She wasn't begging for forgiveness. There was a strange calm in her voice, like she'd made peace with the damage she caused. But I hadn't, not even close. For days, her words echoed in my head. I kept thinking back to every little moment, every kiss, every shared laugh, every night we spent in bed, tangled in sheets and soft promises. Was it all fake? Or had something in her broken along the way? Just like me. I tried to make sense of it, but nothing fit. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them together. My girlfriend, my son, two people I loved in the worst possible way. I was drowning in the silence of my own home. So I did what I should have done long before I confronted Tyler. It was late evening when I found him in the garage, pretending to work on his car. Stood behind him for a second, just watching. Then I said, "We need to talk." He turned around slowly, his face pale, guilt written all over it. But he didn't deny it. He didn't run. He just looked at me like a scared boy. I asked him why. I asked him how. And what he told me nearly destroyed what was left of me. "She listened to me," he said quietly. "She saw me. You never did." His words stung because there was truth in them. I hadn't been the father I should have been. After the divorce, I checked out emotionally. I buried myself in work. I was distant, cold, and Tyler grew up feeling invisible. Claire stepped into that space and filled it with comfort, attention, care. Then one night, it turned into something more. He told me he didn't plan it, but he didn't stop it either, and that he didn't regret it. That was the part that gutted me the most. I wanted to punch him, scream at him, disown him on the spot. But I didn't. I just stared at him, and for the first time, I didn't see a man. I saw a broken, angry kid who had made a terrible choice. A choice that tore his father apart. I told him to leave. He didn't fight me. He packed a bag that night and walked out of the house like it meant nothing. And Claire Shea stayed for a few more days. Not to fix things, but because she wasn't done twisting the knife. Every look, every word from her had this cruel calm to it, like she was watching a storm she created and quietly enjoying it. Then one night, she left without saying goodbye. No apology. No note. Just gone. The silence that followed was louder than any fight could have been. I was alone in a house filled with ghost memories that once made me smile, now made me sick. I tried to distract myself, but nothing helped. Work didn't fill the void. Friends didn't know what to say. My world had collapsed, and all I could do was sit in the rubble. Then, out of nowhere, a week later, Claire showed up again. It was raining hard that night. I heard a knock, opened the door, and there she was, soaked, shivering, and looking different. Not smug, not angry, just tired. She looked at me with eyes I barely recognized and said, "I didn't love him, Ethan. I never did. It was never about Tyler. It was about you." My chest tightened. I asked her what she meant, and she said, "I wanted to hurt you the way you hurt me. You never let me all the way in. You gave me just enough to stay, but never enough to feel truly loved. So I broke the one thing you still had, your son." I couldn't speak. I just stood there, letting the rain fall between us. I wanted to hate her, but all I felt was emptiness. She turned and walked away, leaving me on the porch, soaked in water and heartbreak. That night, I realized this wasn't just about betrayal. It was about wounds, old ones we never treated, silent ones we never spoke about. Claire didn't cheat for love. She did it out of pain. And Tyler didn't fall for her because of desire, but because he wanted anyone to finally see him. And in that storm, I saw clearly for the first time. The damage wasn't just done by them. I had played my part too. Asterisk, after Claire walked away that night, the rain kept falling, but I didn't move from the porch. I stood there, frozen, letting the cold soak through my clothes, through my skin, until I couldn't feel anything at all. It was strange the worst of it had already happened. The truth was out. The damage was done. Yet somehow, that moment hurt more than all the others combined. Because now I understood. Not just what she did, but why she did it. And that knowing. That cut the deepest. I didn't speak to anyone for a while after that. I spent weeks alone moving through the house like a ghost. I boxed up Claire's things, tossed them in the garage, deleted every photo of us from my phone. But what haunted me wasn't the images, it was the silence. The echoes of what we used to be. The laughter in the kitchen, the nights on the couch. It's the way she used to reach for my hand when she was half asleep. Love doesn't just vanish, it lingers. Even after betrayal, some part of you remembers the warmth. That's the cruelest part of heartbreak. Still miss the person who destroyed you. One afternoon, I got a letter in the mail from Tyler, handwritten, no return address. I held it for hours before opening it. Inside, he said he was sorry not just for sleeping with Claire, but for the years of distance between us. He said he had a lot of anger built up from childhood, that he blamed me for leaving his mother for never really being there. But what he did with Claire, he admitted it was a mistake, a terrible, selfish one. He said it messed him up too, that he was in therapy now, trying to understand why he always destroyed the things he needed most. I cried reading it, not because it made things better, but because it felt real. For the first time in years, Tyler was speaking from his heart, and maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back. I didn't respond right away. I wasn't ready. Healing doesn't come in a day. But I saved the letter, folded it carefully, and placed it in my drawer. A few weeks later, I started seeing a therapist too. I needed to talk about Claire, about my ex-wife, about my childhood, about all the walls I had built to keep myself safe, but ended up shutting out love. I started jogging in the mornings, cooking dinner instead of takeout, fixing little things around the house, not just to keep busy, but because it reminded me I could still take care of something. I even joined a local support group for divorced men. I didn't say much at first, just listened. But being in that room, hearing other men talk about betrayal, broken trust, lost years, it made me feel less alone. Slowly, something inside me started to shift. I wasn't healing for Claire. I wasn't healing to punish her, or even to forgive her. I was healing for me. One Sunday afternoon, I drove up to the lake just outside of Erie, where Claire and I had once spent a weekend. I brought a small box with me. Inside were photos, old notes she wrote me, the necklace I bought her for our 1-year anniversary. I sat by the water and looked through it one last time. Then I burned every piece of it. Not out of hate, but to let go, to finally stop carrying her with me. As the smoke drifted up into the sky, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Real, deep, quiet peace. A few weeks later, Tyler called. For the first time, I answered. We didn't talk about Claire. We didn't dig into the past. We just talked about work, about life, about how weird it was to be adults trying to find our way. It wasn't a full repair, but it was a start. And sometimes, that's all you need. It's been a year now. I'm not in a relationship, and I don't know when I'll be ready. But I've learned something powerful. Love isn't about being perfect. It's about being present, being honest. And when it breaks, when it truly shatters you, it's okay to take your time putting the pieces back. You don't need to rush forgiveness. You don't need to hold on to bitterness either. Sometimes the most romantic thing you can do is choose yourself.